everybody. Today I wanted to talk about what I'm going to call self-care counsel, a kind of adult self-care counsel, and this is for the young adults. And when I say young adults, I pretty much mean people 45 and under, maybe even 50, and their parents being the counsel. The idea I see is there's a very big challenge between young people getting married and what it takes to create, let's say, a positive marriage and partner, a positive connection with another partner. I view that the parents of these children are taking more of a passive role, and although I can see that is probably in some respects a good thing, that they're not meddling in their children's affairs and they're allowing them to have their own experiences. Uh, and they might not have the answers themselves, so they don't want to give poor advice, so they'd rather be silent. I think those things have its place, but ultimately, I'm seeing that um, we do have to give more counsel to the younger couples. I think that each, let's say, parenting section of the young couples, the ladies' parents and the man's parents, should have a very good grasp of their child, their bad habits, their good habits, the things that they just have a hard time dealing with, the kind of support they need in those hard times, and all those very personal things to their child. They should know this. They've had a lot of time to study, look, and observe, and if they're doing well themselves, they're able to look and observe their influence on their child and therefore be at terms with the outcome of how their child has turned out to be. And in that way, each parent group separately should have a very good understanding of their children. Then, when they meet in challenges with their partners, each adult can go to their parent and say, you know what, I'm having a hard time with this, that, and the other thing. And the parent should be able to respond in a neutral way of saying, yes, you know, I can see how that's frustrating because you tend to like these things more than those things. However, in a relationship, you will have to improve that. It is your responsibility to make that better, and here's something you might try. What we do not want is the fact of the parents of those children just viewing the fact that the other person, the other child, has to be misbehaved and wrong or not correct. Therefore, their child doesn't have to make any change at all or very little change. It is the imperfection of the other person causing the problem. This would be very one sided and not realistic to relationships. There's no relationships that work that way. There is the person that you are attractive to and care about and want in your life, and there's what it takes to grow to keep that person in your life. Ultimately, both sides must grow to have that kind of effect, but when one person is willing to see the challenges that they're personally feeling and talk to the partner about that, you know, hey, honey, I realized that I got really upset over this thing. It's just that it causes this feeling in me, and I get really upset, but I'm going to try to improve that. Please hold me accountable to that thing, but also understand that it is a challenge to me, and if you could support me in this way, that'd be very helpful. Now, the brain does really well with that kind of talking. In fact, it shows that the other person is not crazy for feeling that you were upset and that was emotionally correct. Okay, that's great. Then mentally, it shows that you're willing to see your error, your challenge. Perfect. I'm now validated as the other person having the issue with you being upset. On top of that, not only can you see, you're willing to change. And not only are you going to change, you're telling me how you're going to do that. So now I feel appreciated in my opinion, and I see that you care because you're willing to make that change. So all these mental, emotional things are really working very well to make positive connections for growth. On top of that, I'm asking for your help, meaning I trust you enough to help me through this challenge, and it is a challenge, and I'm needing your guidance in this. Please give me counsel. Essentially, that, if none of the other things would be helpful, that alone is very powerful and gives the person the understanding that they will have to help. They will have to do something as well to overcome this challenge. And it's not just one person's challenge, it is now a team challenge. And in that, if you come to a positive outcome with those things kind of all being met, you have a closer bond. Somebody helped you through a challenge. It's something that you wanted to change. You change it for this person. They're worth that change. And they see that you put in an extra effort for them. Therefore, they're going to be willing to do that for yourself if things are balanced. Um, on top of that, the challenge that the other person might have and you might point out to them will also gain more validity, because if you can have that challenge, then it equally makes sense that another person can have that challenge. And if they're having that challenge, even though it looks different and has a different kind of precursor, it still now puts the responsibility on that person to reach out to you and to understand that you are now going through that challenge. And you might get upset with somebody raising their voice, and you know that's your issue. So you're going to be mindful of catching your reaction to a change in voice or tone. And the person that you're asking help for is now going to be more conscious of their tone when they're speaking. They might not be aware of it at all. And this way, now we have a balanced way of growth. Without these things, we just have arguments. We never have clear communication. And therefore, we have essentially the problem of the adults of those children passing over another generation into their children, and their children suffering from these challenges in a way of not being able to overcome them in their new relationship and new bonds with other people. So I think that if we do put the self-care aspect into things, we'll have something that resembles a wise counsel to younger people, and the younger people being receptive of this counsel, and therefore improvement of relationships. And really, on top of improvements, it's just a real experience of recognizing what it takes to forge a great relationship. And it takes a lot of work. Business language doesn't work in relationships. Relationships shouldn't be run like businesses. And in that way, we do have to do a lot of self-growth to be able to foster good relationships. In this way, in business at least, you can get away with not studying every year, but in relationships, your lack of improvement will always be a limiting factor in that relationship. The idea is that we're aiming for a mutual appreciation for what the other person does. The thing doesn't have to be exactly equal in nature. It's not particularly apple for apple, but it's my compassion for your compassion. You will have compassion for my weaknesses. I'll have compassion for your weaknesses. If we can be compassionate in that way, then we can move forward. I just need a strong foothold in where I am weak so that I'm able to surpass what I used to be able to do. And in that way, you can help me and I can help you, and we can bring out the best in each other. I think that is the end conclusion that we're all reaching for, and we have to take this on with a mindset of solution as opposed to a mindset of blame and lack of responsibility. In no relationship can one person take more than 50% of the responsibility for an outcome. Each person is responsible for at least half. And if each person only gives half of their compassion and love and appreciation, then you still will have two 50% equaling 100 in that team. And therefore, we need to know that we probably should put out more than that, but the minimum we need is at least 25% from each person, and we can still have growth. I think this kind of points to the fact of how much resistance there is to the positive outcome of a great relationship, even though these are things that we strongly strive for and are very important and everybody seeks. It does not mean that we have the precursors to foster such a thing. Thank you very much for listening. I wanted to put this video out there to clarify what it takes to cultivate a strong relationship, the family dynamic, parents, children, and spouses, this kind of thing needed for the counsel of a great marriage, and the fact that we need to kind of reinstate something a little bit more solid around the family unit to be able to, let's say, create a positive outcome. All right, thank you very much.